In today's video, I want to talk about heat shields. Not only we are going to make a comparison between those three materials, but we're also going to talk about what makes a good heat shield, how much it costs to make one, and how you can make one on your own. So first up, what makes a good heat shield? The property we are mainly looking for is basically heat resistance, so the material doesn't melt away, machinability, because we also need to drill holes and stuff, or as in our case we also custom machine the logo in here. And also, this is the most important value we are looking for, the so-called thermal conductivity. Thermal conductivity describes how fast a material can heat up and how fast it can cool down. The higher the value, the faster it's gonna heat up and the faster it's gonna cool down respectively. And the lower the value, obviously, the longer it's gonna take for the material to heat up and the slower it's gonna cool down. Let's get to the comparison. Let's talk about our first candidate, and that's gonna be the aluminum version, which we actually sell along with our ECU repairs. It has a weight of 136, 137 grams, something around this. And as said, the material is aluminum and its thermal conductivity is 160 watts divided through meters multiplied by Kelvin. So just watts per mK. So is this value high? To answer this question, yes, it actually is. Because in comparison, air has a thermal conductivity of 0.0262 watts per mK. And now you might wonder, why would you want to use this thing? And to answer this question, the approach this heat shield is taking is to be more as a heat exchanger. So it soaks up the heat, gets cooled down by the air when you drive, and by that cools down, because as I said, high thermal conductivity also means it's going to cool down faster. So if you are driving a lot, let's say in a city, a lot of stop and go traffic, this might not be the ideal solution for you, but it's still a very usable heat shield. Production costs are around 9 euros. This includes the already cut out aluminum plate. It includes the spacers you're gonna need, the ground wire, the nuts, also the bolts to secure it. So everything included, literally 9 euros production cost. The reason why I'm telling you this is because I've seen a solution from the United States where the guy literally had, just a cutout. Not even like this, it was just a square plate. Not even with this cutout or anything, it was just a square aluminum plate. It was like, I think, painted a bit, yeah, okay. But it was $100. And I can tell you as much, this thing is not worth $100. No way in hell we're ever gonna charge you, $100 for it. Of course, I know that this heat shield is sold at other places for, I think, 80 euros or 90 euros. But come on, this is because we want to make our profit a little bit, obviously, because we are a business and they need to make a profit. But if you are, let's say, the first manufacturer, I would never think of selling this thing for $100. Like, what on earth is going on? But anyway, let's move up to the next solution. And here we have Bakelite. Now, obviously, this is not the solution from Australia. It's just a piece of Bakelite, quite literally. And it has a weight of 128 grams. Now, Bakelite, if it's BLA or actually BLBA, it has a thermal conductivity of 0.21. If it's a different composition called BLSA, you're most likely to have a thermal conductivity of 0.38. Now, this is really low in comparison to the previous one. But, and now comes the but, this really depends on the composition used by your supplier. So it could be that you have the mentioned 0.21, but I've seen solutions, or let's say suppliers, where they actually say it's like more 0.3. So this really depends on the quality. This material is supported to heats up to 100 degrees Celsius, like constant heat. There are heat spikes possible up to 140 degrees Celsius. So this is actually very, limited in its frame, to put it this way. So I actually wouldn't really use this in an engine bay. Not because it's a risk, but because I personally would be concerned about its durability, over the long run. But hey, I know that there's a solution available made out of this material and it seems to just last fine. so I wouldn't worry too much. But for me personally, I wouldn't do that, when I sell a product, but not up to me. And the other downside of this material, it's non-recyclable. I know a lot of people don't care, but if you ever decide to throw this thing away for whichever reason, you're just gonna end up with nothing but trash. It's not recyclable, it has to be burned off, so it's not such a great solution. Another thing I've seen, at least with the Australian version, it seems to be really small on the sides. I actually got an ECU for you guys, and the way I've seen it, the Bakelite would literally only, cover the ECU completely on the sides. It was just as wide as the ECU, to put it this way. And yeah, it still means a lot of surrounding heat, can get from the sides through. So it's not too nice. And another thing is the price point. So this heat shield retails on eBay for, I think it is $100, because in euros it's 104 euros and 5 cents, excluding shipping. So this is quite expensive. But is it a scam like the other one I mentioned? Absolutely not. Because one thing I must say about this, Bakelite is a very expensive material. And when I was trying to, make my first heat shield, I was also thinking, hey, maybe I can use Bakelite, because I wanted to make one for myself. So, not as a product. But I was like, damn, I can't even find a plate for a reasonable price, because I didn't want to spend 50 to 60 euros on a plate I could just, cut it out from. Because when I could just buy this thing, it's not worth, the time and the hassle. So long story short, it is worth its price, yeah, absolutely. Quality depends on its composition, non-recyclable material, heat resistant on the long run, only up to 100 degrees Celsius, and actually quite small. But yeah, it's still a very good heat shield, so don't get me wrong. If you want to buy this, if you have it, you can just get it. It's gonna work absolutely fine. So let's go to our solution now. And as you're gonna see, this is actually pretty heavy with 233 to, yeah, it's jumping around now, sorry. This is not the most precise scale. It's around 234 grams. And this is really the heaviest material yet. Because some people might say, no, hey, but you have these foam pieces, we're gonna get to those. Let me show you how much the weight of just the raw material is. So this is a raw cutout. It really depends a bit on the density of the material. So with our current supplier, it's around 229, let's say 230 grams. And we have a new supplier where the plates weigh around 250 grams. So yeah, they're actually improving now material quality, even though it was already very expensive. Well, seems to be the better scale was a bit out, but anyways, so around 230 grams. And now let's talk about the material itself. This is PTFE. Most people have no clue what that is, even though they use it every single day. Because this is actually known as Teflon. Yes, this is what's used in frying pans. Unbelievable, but it's true. So, what about this plate? Thermal conductivity is guaranteed from our supplier to be around 0.21 up to 0.23 watts per mK, which is also a very low value. It's sort of on the same level as the Bakelite. Now, what else? It's heat resistant up to 260 degrees Celsius. So this thing doesn't burn, or actually doesn't melt, because Bakelite also doesn't burn. I mean, none of these materials burn, but it's very heat resistant. It's up to 90% recyclable. So hey, that's quite good. I mean, it's also pretty heavy, as you have just seen, so it is, very nice in feeling and dealing with it. But of course, this doesn't make a good heat shield. And the other thing, it's pretty big. I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So the ECU sits on this thing. So yeah, we have corners left and right. Just a finger we can put in here and have the ECU covered completely. But let's talk about the price. This heat shield retails for 50 euros. Is it worth it? You have to decide on your own, because now you're gonna get a very detailed breakdown of all the material costs. So, as you might have just seen, when we purchase this thing, it's just a block. And these are all the materials we need to make a heat shield. So, the plate itself, 11 €91. 20 cents for the 6 nuts. €1.47 for the 2 stripes of silica wool on the back. We're gonna get to this in a minute. €2.69 for these 4 rubber bearings. 33 cents for the ground wire. We make this on our own. So this is basically the price for this shrink cable, for the cable itself and for the 2 terminals. €1.06 for these 2 spacers down here. And 22 cents for the packaging, 55 cents also for the packaging. For 22 cents you have like a little box where we put in all these materials. And actually I just realized, I've forgotten the bolts, but those are really inexpensive. I think it's around, I don't want to say anything wrong, but I think it's around, maybe €1 or €2, so it's not too much. So all the costs are around €18.33, excluding the bolts on the top, as said. So with them, we're speaking roughly around $20. So our profit seems to be €30, right? Reality is a bit different, because as we are living in Germany, we have to pay taxes. Unfortunately, yes, we have to pay them. Actually, what means unfortunately? We have to pay them, I'm not going to complain about it. So from these €30, we have like a profit, depending, let's say, how where we're exporting this thing to, because obviously when we sell this to the United States, we don't have to pay the so-called VAT, so no VAT for this thing. So it can vary between 18 to €10. It's not a lot, especially because you need to consider that we are making these things at home. It's not a joke, we are machining that at home, we just buy, as I said, this plate, nobody does it for us except ourselves. So yeah. Now let's talk about some of the stuff you see here. So as mentioned, actually something I get asked a lot of times, why do I have nuts and why do I have those spacers or extensions? So when your car is 2003 to 2006 model year, you want to use the nuts to lift up the brace. And if your car is 2007 or newer, you might have shorter studs, so you cannot elevate it just by using the nuts. Then you can use these extensions, just bolt them on, and this is gonna spare you the excessive work of trying to remove those studs, because trust me, sometimes they can be stuck and it's gonna be a pain, a big pain to remove it. Something else I wanted to talk about was actually the back of this thing. And what you see here, these 2, somebody called them foam stripes or foam pieces, is called silica wool. It's made by a German company, which is also called Silica. And this is actually silica wool 120p. It's heat resistant up to 1200 degrees Celsius, which is insane. And it has a thermal conductivity of 0.05 watts per MK at around 200 degrees Celsius. So what you need to keep in mind now, we had this very, very low thermal conductivity from the plate itself, on the same level as Bakelite, maybe a bit worse, let's give it that, it was a bit worse. But nothing's gonna beat those 2 stripes on the back. Because this piece and this piece, so these, let's say, halves, are basically covered by the mounting position, and this, where the actual ECU sits on top, that's actually covered by the very good silica stripes. And actually these are used when building ovens, so this is where we get our stuff from. And that's actually a ceramic fiber, so as said, it doesn't burn, feels quite nice, it's actually pretty soft, and it's helping to improve the thermal conductivity by a lot. Now let's answer the question, which one of these 3 you should buy. Short answer, and I'm gonna cut it really short, all of them, they're all fine, because it doesn't matter too much, being quite honest with you. Okay, maybe this heat shield has some disadvantages when you use it, let's say, in traffic, in city. Those are a bit better because, they can resist the heat, or can resist from heating up for much longer compared to this one. But in the end, we are all gonna serve the same purpose. And this is what matters actually. Now let's say you want something on a budget, which is quite well thought through, at least in my opinion. I mean, it's my product. Hey, buy this one. If you are like, no, I don't like this logo, it's ugly, by this one. I also quite like the color of it, I gotta admit it myself. I also like the logo the guys engraves, you know, it looks cool, can't deny that. But if you are like, yeah, I don't care about all of this, I just want my ECU repaired, we're also gonna make a video about that. You're gonna get this one and you can stick to it. It's totally fine, it's absolutely fine, and you can even use a piece of plywood when designing your own. It doesn't matter. Just look that it doesn't melt, that it doesn't burn, and you should be good to go, quite honest with you. The only thing I must say, which I cannot endorse, I've seen some people who actually glue like fiber mats, which are used for heat insulation, for, you know, turbos and stuff, or let's say for your exhaust, and we just glue it like right underneath the ECU. Don't do that. That's not too clever, because, as said, air has a very, very, very low thermal conductivity, which is like why it's used in thermoscans, which is really nice, and you guys don't want to lose that. So I would rather, if you buy like a material like that, I would rather like put it at the bottom, secure it with like the rubber bearings I've shown you earlier, and then let the ECU sit on top of it. It's gonna work just as fine, but don't lose the air gap, like don't put the material right underneath. But there are also some other alternatives, which I'm not gonna hide from you. There is the Relocation kit from SAAB Taiwan, so SAC, and that's made by Salo and his crew. Yeah, Salo, I hope you're watching this video. They're competitors, but still, it's a very nice kit. And I think it's around $70, I think, in purchase price. Please don't take that for granted. I don't know his product so much, but it's also a very good idea. I'm gonna blend in a picture and you're gonna see how it's actually repositioned. And something else my very, very good friend Mark is working on is a relocation kit. So you can reroute the ECU in the vehicle. You can put it in the trunk, you can put it on the driver's seat, you could buy a trailer and put it on there. It's quite hilarious, but hey, it's a very good idea. And I think at least this solution is gonna be unbeaten by all of these. You know, you don't have a chance against it. Now let's actually talk about DIYing something, and I've prepared something for you based upon this thing, and it's actually a cutout you can use. So what you're gonna need for this is just any material of your choice in the size of 165 millimeters by 130. And what you can do, as I said, here we have one of these pieces, because this is our base, you know, size. Here you have it. And what you can do now, maybe you can, you know, put some glue on the back. Of course, it's not gonna stick to the PTFE, don't you worry, but put some glue on the back and then make markings, you know, like cut this thing out and make some marks by, I don't know, a screwdriver, so you know where to drill. You can, you know, slice it up here and stuff like that, so you know where to, you know, shave it off. And then you can make something on your own. You can find this in the description for free to download. So if you do not want to spend any money on our solution or other solutions I've just shown you, this is the way to go. Because, and now I'm also going to show you something interesting, the ECU was apparently never intended to not be protected. Because, let's take a look at this. You see those cutouts, like these round ones? Check this out. I can put this one, it's gonna fit perfectly. I can put this one, it's gonna fit perfectly. And I can also put this one, it's gonna fit absolutely fine. And I know that Oreo sells one of these like heat shield kits, as they call it. It's just a kit of, you know, 3 of these you know, rubber bushings, some screws and a ground strap, so not worth it for $70, like that's a scam. And yeah, apparently it was left out due to, you know, cost reasons. Actually, nobody really knows. It's also the question like why we have, you know, 3 bottom holes when we only use 2. No idea, really. I don't know what to say about this. And actually, the way it looks, it was supposed to go like in here, but when you bolt this thing down, it's gonna be this one, which is not gonna fit as perfectly, but still. So now you had a very good overview on how to make something on your own. And the last thing I want to show you for today is how we make this thing of plastic into this thing of plastic. Because I want all of you to see what we actually do, what we have to look out for. It's going to be a very short production video, to put it this way. And if you're already saturated with the knowledge for today, feel free to leave. Thank you very much for watching and enjoy the footage.